Tarble was going to Master Shen, trying to politely get some answers from his mentor. Hey, Master, I wasn't aware that there were more Saiyans on Earth. I don't want to sound ungrateful, but...
Then don't be! The crane hermit scoffed at him angrily. Let's move away from the crowd. See, this is exactly the reason why I didn't tell you. It cause a scene. The old man was rather good at pretending to have the knowledge, and quite clearly, he didn't know that there were more Saiyans on Earth. I did this so you wouldn't get distracted. Remember, the victory of our school is everything, no matter who the other person is. Do you understand?
Of course, Master. Sorry that I asked, Master. He bowed deeply, Tarble.
Well, obviously we are going to make sure that the three of you will surely face the Turtle Hermit's prize students in combat, so you can embarrass them greatly. Chiaotsu, you know what to do. Once the registrations are open, of course, those telepathic tricks of yours that you have practiced will come in quite good hand. The little doll person shook his head in agreement, having heard Shen's plan. But then Tarble spoke up again. But, Master, wouldn't that be cheating? He did say this quietly, though. What is it with you and all the questions today, boy? Aren't you forgetting your place? The crane hermit looked at him angrily, but then quickly calmed down when he saw how meek Tarble had become.
No, I wouldn't dare. It's just... we're stronger. We don't need to do that. We can win easily. You told us that, right?
Well, maybe not consider this as cheating. More like a clever usage of the principles of probability.
Oh, as you say, Master. Tarble saluted slightly. They then went on to register for the tournament. Then the crane hermit actually paid for a quite decent meal for all three of them. As moody as the master could be, he did have his moments when generosity would bubble up to the surface, mostly though in public, to make himself look like a benevolent mentor. But nevertheless, the feast was pretty good, and should sustain the three students for the preliminaries at least. Before they went on to take part in the thing, Tenshinhan stopped Tarble for a second. Just so you know, I'm going to be the one to win, and prove to the master who the strongest student of our school is, the Triclops said, but Tarble smiled in a friendly manner, thinking that, oh cool, good. As long as the victor is one of us, cranes, we will be happy and victorious. He offered him a hand to shake, but Tien refused, slightly upsetting the Saiyan. Your days as a teacher's pet are over, Tarble. I'm going to surpass you, by any means necessary, his fellow student said to him, without even turning his head to look him in the eyes, and he had slight advantage in that regard. Why was he so untrusting toward him? What had Tarble done to deserve that? Well, I mean, hopefully the best person would win, right? But Tarble decided not to overeat, as he had to be focused. Soon, the preliminaries were about to start, and they were easier than the young Saiyan could have ever anticipated. He was about to face some weird guy called Man-Wolf, who looked just as the name would suggest. He was quite the furious opponent, but Tarble could easily use his anger against himself. He resorted to minimal movement, responding with very direct and sharp attacks that could and would leave painful bruises. Finally, when ordered by Master Shen to get on with it from the stands, he blasted this dog-like opponent with a powerful Dodon Ray. Later on, he could see that his colleagues, as well as the three students of the Turtle Hermit, making it further. Also, the one to pass the preliminaries was an individual going by the name of Jackie Chun. But for the Crane team, and especially Tarble, it was quite obvious that this was his mentor's rival, posing as some kind of random fighter. So, these were the cheap tricks the Crane Hermit told them about. Truly a devious individual. And the way he called himself Roshi. Master Roshi. Master. Oh, that clearly had an ego. And Tarble could understand why. After all being almost as good as resplendent Master Shen, that could corrupt a lesser mind if he weren't careful. So after every student of both schools had made it through the preliminaries, Chiaotsu used his powers to manipulate the numbers in the pot. Just so that means the turtles and the cranes would definitely face one another. But prompted by Tien, he set Tarble against Jackie Chun himself. If he is too weak, he would fall down fairly quickly. And it would certainly be beneficial for the remaining two Crane School fighters to see the old man's tricks early on to the detriment of Tarble. Still, The first fight would be between Tien and a Turtle School pupil named Yamcha. Tarble and Chiaotsu could already watch some banter between the two be exchanged, as their colleague was clearly taunting the young man. Initially, it seemed like both fighters had equal chances of success, with the scarred individual going with some rather powerful flurry of blows against the Triclops. Still, not gaining as much an advantage as he would have hoped to have gained, he used the Kamehameha, the Crane School, that being the crown technique of the Turtle School against Tien, which caused him to be way too predictable and the attack be reflected, much to the shock of the entire audience. The bandit tried then an aerial kick, but his opponent managed to sneak behind him and knock him to the ground, ending the fight by breaking his leg, mimicking the gesture once used by Tarble on him. The fight was over, with the first victory going to the Crane School. Well, it was now the second Saiyan's turn, with Tien watching him with a rather boastful expression. He was about to face Jackie Chun, the master himself. The fight started in a rather weird manner, with the participants trying to get an insight into one another without landing too many strikes. Tarble could feel that this old man was literally scanning his face with his ancient eyes, sizing him up. He decided to break eye contact with a quick charge toward the enemy, and a hit was landed, a fast palm strike connected with the old man's side, causing him to smirk.
Not bad, youngster, not bad. You might be almost as fast as Goku over there.
He nodded impressed. Tarble decided not to answer and went for another strike. This time Chun was ready to block.
Mind if I ask you a question? Why are you and your two colleagues fighting for such a devious character like Shen?
The turtle hermit tilted his head, but then got punched instead, again not getting any answers. I would kindly ask you not to disrespect my master. Tarble's expression was rather intense, but still had a degree of politeness.
You seem to be a polite and loyal person, ultimately. Not something that Shen would ever appreciate. Believe me, I've known him for many years, boy. He abandoned the way of honor when he left our master and myself to die,
Roshi said quietly toward the Saiyan. A Dodon ray shot from the palms of the boy, but it got countered with a Kamehameha from Chun. My master told me that you would be up to these kinds of tricks, that you would be feeding me with lies and misinformation. I am not going to fall for any of it. I am going to beat you. Tarble was ready to deal some serious damage. Then Jackie Chun simply smiled at him.
Your master doesn't care about you or your colleagues. He is only interested in the prestige of his school and his wealth. He will discard any of you when you are not needed. I wish you well, I really do, because I see how talented you are, and you should have a chance to do great things in this tournament, and not be beholden to that man.
The old man then stepped out of the ring, much to everyone's surprise. Tarble's face looked shocked. The turtle hermit surrendered the round? For him? Why? He decided to chase after him to get answers when the fight was over. Why? Why did you do this? This whole charade? Giving me the fight? Tell me!
You would have won either way. He smiled slightly. Also, I didn't want you to lose too much energy before more important battles before you. You might end up fighting my students too, or your own colleagues. Remember that. As for the costume, I always want to challenge them. They believe that there will always be someone stronger than them. Remember that lesson, boy. Never consider yourself the strongest.
Tarble, stop talking to that old coot and come on over here!
Shen yelled from the stands.
Your master's calling you. I hope we meet again, young Tarble.
The Saiyan boy was clearly confused by that. The turtle hermit could have been tricking him for all he had known, but there was a degree of weird kindness in there. He decided not to talk to the crane hermit about that part. He rarely kept things from his mentor, but there it was. The next fight was between the Turtle School's Krillin and their own Chiaotsu. Initially, the student of Shen was putting some of the much-needed pressure on the young monk, who really tried to use the Kamehameha against the smallest of the crane's students, but now it was becoming a predictable technique, the third time being used. It seemed though he hadn't fully mastered the technique, which prompted Shen to chuckle at this inability. But still, at a climactic moment of the duel, Krillin managed to fake a blast that was about to collide with Chiaotsu's Dodon Ray in order to get closer to him and strike him down with a powerful kick. This had almost thrown the little fighter out of the ring, but he managed to recover somewhat and captured Krillin with his telekinesis. While in this predicament, the bald monk started to bombard Chiaotsu with mathematical equations, finding out his weakness and deconcentrating him enough to let his victim go. The smallest of the fighters retaliated against his foe and countered the equation with one of his own, which Krillin promptly solved and asked him another question. Not being able to quickly count, Chiaotsu then got knocked out, making Master Shen absolutely livid. After he got to his team, Master Shen scolded his student by yelling at him profusely.
What on earth were you doing? You let some foolish mathematical crap deconcentrate you? If you didn't have your telekinetic abilities, I swear I would kick you out of the team on the spot. You are a total disgrace. You will be cleaning latrines at the dojo for a month.
The Crane Hermit was fuming, much to visible discomfort from Tien and Tarble.
What are you two looking at? Don't you disappoint me too, as he did. You will be fighting each other, so may the better one win.
Yes, Master, they said almost in unison. Almost though, as Shen was a little bit smarter in regards to people, he would have noticed hesitation that wasn't there before. The next fight they could watch this whole Goku fellow, and both Tien and Tarble could say that he was really, really impressive. Fighting against Pamput, a celebrity around these parts, it seemed like he knocked him out in just a single punch. But the two students at the Crane School looked to each other instead afterward. Did you see it as well? Tien said reluctantly. That last attack? It wasn't one hit. 3 hits. Fast ones. Exactly my point, my friend. We are going to be next. Whoever wins is going to fight that guy. I am not going to lose to you, though. The Triclops gave him an intense look. Before he walked away, Tarble finally mustered the courage to ask one single question. Why do you seem to hate me? He looked at his feet, though. He had courage, but not that much. The directness of the sentence, though, surprised the Triclops. Because when I came to the dojo, you already had what I wanted. I'm going to take it away from you, though. I will be the strongest fighter and bring pride to our school, not you. That's a great dream. I hope you win. Tarble gave Tien a shy smile and then walked over to prepare for the fight, leaving his opponent taken aback. And then the duel started. The two Crane students looking at each other from both sides of the arena. They knew each other's movements completely and absolutely assured themselves that they would win. After all, at times they were forced to train together. Tien would not allow, though, the repetition of their first sparring session from so long ago, and Tarble had to admit that his colleague had made very magnificent and significant progress. From the multi-arm technique to the solar flare, the stadium was shaking from the sheer power of their encounter. As Tien attempted to nail Tarble down with a Haikyuken, the Saiyan rolled over and countered it with a fast punch to the neck, which caused his opponent to shake a little. Still, he waited for the Triclops to recover from it before going on to doing something next. There was no soft treatment, though, from Tien, as he hit his rival with a powerful flurry of blows from his multi-arm technique. As they were clashing with one another, Tarble finally found an opening and managed to use his trademark palm strike to slightly stab the Triclops in the solar plexus, causing him to fall down on his knees in pain. He had managed to hit a nerve and paralyze the Triclops for a moment.
Good, Tarble, good. Now finish him for his weakness,
Shen ordered from the stands.
I should have known that it would be you to get to the finals, my prize student. You know what to do.
Tarble looked at Tien trying to recover, and at the sadistic glee that the Crane Hermit was getting from watching the whole thing. Instead, he waited for Tien to recover. As the Triclops charged upon him, he stopped defending and allowed him to strike. With that, he fell out of the ring. After Tien claimed his victory, he walked over to Tarble, helping him to stand up. Why? Why did you give up the fight? He looked at him intensely, really wanting to know. Because you really cared about it. Besides, I already am the teacher's pet. I wanted you to have a chance. And I don't think that you're weaker than me. I just got lucky in one strike. Now go on. Defeat that Goku fellow. For the school. The Saiyan smiled. Thanks. He offered him a hand for the first time in their life and took him over to the master.
What did I tell you about claiming your chances for victory when they arise? Well, it doesn't matter. Tenshinhan, you have a chance to redeem yourself, it turns out. Destroy that Goku fellow. You have to kill the one that disfigured my brother. Do you understand?
Shen was looking intensely at the three-eyed young man. There was no response, though.
I hope you do.
The Crane Hermit returned to look at the stadium when the fight between Krillin and Goku began. It was a very flashy and entertaining in similar way to how Tarble's and Tien's went down, but the Crane students couldn't help but notice how much happy for each other the two fighters were, like this was just a typical sparring session. There was a clear sense of brotherhood, and even though Goku won, his opponent seemed to be happy for him. Tarble looked at Tien, knowing what was about to happen next. Well, it's your turn. Good luck. The Triclops nodded. Initially, in their encounter, Tenshinhan was the one who had an advantage over the smaller fighter, but it quickly became clear that the other Saiyan was not fighting with all of his strength at once, and he managed to attack him with a rather devastating combo. As it turned out, both of the fighters were very skilled with their after images, which turned the whole thing into a copy brawl, which was hard to follow for anyone not knowing how the technique worked. At some point, Goku even took Roshi's shades to stop a solar flare, which ended up with a retaliation from Tien, who punched him into the wall. Still, the Saiyan was able to quickly recover.
Chiaotsu, we are risking too much for him. Stop him with telepathy,
Shen uttered.
Yes, Master.
Tarble was then watching the whole thing with shock. That was cheating. Definitely cheating. He could see his fellow Saiyan not being able to move and being punched by Tien, who also then realized that something was going wrong. Chiaotsu then got a telepathic message from Tien, urging him to stop what he was doing, as he wanted to win against Goku in a clean, fair fight, something that greatly infuriated the Crane Hermit.
What are you doing, boy? I ordered you to kill him! Obey me! Defend the honor of your idol and my brother!
He is my idol no more, and I don't want to be disqualified, shouted Tien.
I'm going to rip you to shreds! Chiaotsu, Tarble, kill them both!
Shen shrieked at his students, who merely looked at each other. Tarble looked at his master, and for the first time, with proper contempt. He saw Master Roshi making a move towards them, but stopped in his tracks once he met the Saiyan's eyes. Then the boy returned his gaze to Shen. I think I've had enough of you, uttered the Saiyan, and with a powerful uppercut, he removed his now former mentor from the stands. The Crane Hermit, surprised by this, stood up from the ground, gathering the pieces from his destroyed hat and glasses.
Tarble, I gave you everything. I raised you, gave you a home. What are you doing?
As the Saiyan had slowly descended from the stand and looked at Shen with disgust, he started to respond. You are a cheater and a liar. I don't know how many things you've told me about are true, but I intend to find out. But for now, you're not welcome here.
You will pay for that. Without me, you have nothing. All three of you, you are nothing.
Dorore! Tarble yelled and removed Shen from the tournament grounds altogether, launching him into the air. As he turned away to look at a relieved Chiaotsu, he felt that someone had put a palm on his shoulder. That required a lot of bravery, my boy. Master Roshi smiled at him. Maybe. Well, me and the other two cranes are basically homeless now. Tarble let out a grim laugh. I think we can do something about that. Now, let's see the rest of the match, shall we? And he took the boy over to the stands. The fight was one of the most amazing things any one of them had ever witnessed, and its finale took it outside of the arena entirely. And if it weren't for that one truck, nobody would have known how it would have ended. But it ended with Tien barely winning and Goku in a hospital bed. Still, once he came to, the young Saiyan was really happy for the Triclops, who apologized to the Turtle School students for his behavior, especially to Yamcha's broken leg. Tarble and Chiaotsu did the same, with the Saiyan promising to Goku that he will tell him more about their people. The Crane students were offered a new place to stay, to train at Kame House as well, with a master that would take care of them. The trio seemed to be excited by the prospect of a new training place, where they would be less competitive. Goku didn't want his share of the prize money, which meant that Tien could offer up a big feast in order for everyone to celebrate. And for the first time in ages, the turtle and the crane, or at least their legacy, were friends again. The cycle of hatred was over. As the old tale tells, they united right in time because their combined strength was needed against an even greater evil. But that's the story for another day.